really appreciate you being on today for this pre-retirement gap webinar. Before we get started, we would like to draw your attention to several things. We have set up a site with videos that cover many of the concerns federal employees have about their benefits. Take out your pen or pencil and jot down the following sites for future use: fershelp.com and csrshelp.com. The Free Benefit Analysis is a great tool and is available for you at freebenefitanalysis.com. At the end of this webinar, a survey will pop up on your screen. At that time, you can give us feedback, ask questions, and request a free benefit analysis. This presentation is sponsored by Jeremy Chester and Greg Smith. They are highly qualified, and whether you are an FERS or CSRS employee, they have the answers to your benefit questions. So let's get started.
Welcome, everyone. My name's Gina, and I will be your host today. In your time as a federal employee, you probably didn't receive benefits training. You've heard that your benefits were good, and you can research these things online, but we often like to have a financial professional walk us through the process. This free webinar will cover a lot of ground, and you're welcome to request additional information. Today we're going to talk about how to prepare for retirement and when to retire. We'll discuss the Thrift Savings Plan and survivor benefits. The government offers us life insurance and health benefits as protection, but how can they be used to your best advantage? At the end, we'll cover estate planning, how to leave a legacy for your family. Let's start with retirement planning. You've probably asked yourself, when can I retire? At the age of 40 or 50 or 60? We can help prepare you by gathering data about your assets, debts, and investments. Then, we'll look at your current situation. Do you have a child or a grandchild preparing for college? Are there medical concerns? Do you have parents who rely on you to take care of them? Finally, you'll want to establish real, attainable goals. You may set a goal to retire at a certain age or with a certain income level. Next, we will help you identify if you have a gap. We look at your retirement income and your retirement expenses. Be realistic and keep track of everything you spend for a couple of months. Once you know how much income you need to cover your necessities, you can determine if your retirement income will meet your needs and your wants. Then, you will have a good idea whether you can retire. If your retirement income cannot meet those needs, you can adjust your savings, reduce your spending, or adjust your retirement date. Those are just 3 options. Once you evaluate these solutions, give them a try. Try living on less. Try saving more. If, after 5 months, you realize you can do it, it will make a big difference in timing your retirement. Most people are short in savings. Start saving today, no matter your age. If you are under 50 years old, we recommend saving 10%, excluding the 5% match from TSP. If you are 50 or older, save 15%. Next, let's cover risk management basics. Make sure you have your risks. Look at your expenses and have at least 3 to 6 months available to you. That means have it in a pre-liquid account such as a CD or a money market account. Then, when life throws you a curveball, there's no need to panic. Consider insurance. Insurance is designed to protect us when things happen, and you need to have insurance. You want to look at umbrella policies, long-term care insurance. You want to have the appropriate protection. Lastly, you want to have an investment and distribution plan. People spend many years deciding how to invest, but very few people take the time to design a distribution plan. How do you spend it? You are going to have income from your pension, Social Security, and TSP, and from any other assets you've gathered as well. Which do you take first, and how much do you take? Do you take Social Security early or late? Do you take your Roth first or your traditional IRA? How about your TSP? A distribution plan helps you work through that, and Jeremy and Greg can help you design one. You will have, perhaps for the first time in your life, a solid plan. Federal employees can be very fortunate because you have a pension when you retire. It's called an annuity. For FERS, your annuity is based on 3 elements: a chart, your high 3 average, and how many years of credible service you've put in. What chart? If you go to opm.gov, you will find chart number 6 in the handbook. The bottom line is, if you are under age 62 or have less than 20 years service, you get 1% per year. So, if you work 30 years, you get 30% of your pay. Remember, if you are under age 62, you also have the opportunity for a special retirement supplement. That's where the government actually pays you Social Security up to 6 years early, totally penalty-free. If you are age 62 and have at least 20 years, you would get a 10% raise in your pension for the rest of your life. You notice on chart number 7, you get 1.1%. So one way to increase your retirement income is to work until you are 62 years old and have 20 years. CSRS employees get a little bit less than 2% per year. For example, a 30-year career would get you about a 58% out of your pay. Notice that you can use unused sick leave both for CSRS and for FERS into your credible service. You can't use it to qualify to retire, but you can, if you have 20 years, add an additional sick leave amount to increase your pension. The Thrift Savings Plan is a lot like 401k. Money goes in, generally pre-tax. That means that if you're making $40,000 a year and you put $5,000 into your TSP, that $5,000 comes right off that $40,000, so you are only taxed at $35,000. If your TSP grows, that annual growth is tax deferred, so you won't have to pay taxes every year. The government matches 5% to FERS, and there is a required minimum distribution, or RMD, which says that the 1st of April in the year after you turn 70 and a half, you must start to withdraw from your TSP or any other traditional IRA or qualified retirement plan. The government dictates how much you take out, and if you don't take out the right amount, there is a 50% penalty. You can put $17,500 into your TSP, and if you are going to turn 50 or older this year, you can bump it up an additional $5,500. For most people, we recommend no more than 5%. Put in the 5% first to get the match, but don't put anything over that. Instead, put that additional elsewhere, perhaps a Roth IRA or a type of investment you have more control over. TSP is designed around 5 funds: G, C, I, F, and S. G is the government fund that is guaranteed, which is unique. F is for fixed income. C is for the larger companies in America. S is for the smaller companies in America. And I is for international. 2 years ago, the government decided that people were not managing their TSPs well, so they offered life cycle funds. These funds combine the original 5 funds into L2020 or L2030, etc. Each of these funds uses the same 5 basic funds, but allocates the money differently. For example, the L2020 fund might be 35% in G, whereas the 2050 fund, which is considered more aggressive, may only have 10% in G. Generally, the more aggressive you are, the better return you receive. The exception is the I fund, because those returns depend largely on the world economy. Remember, the greater return you seek, you also run a greater risk. We'd like to point out the L fund, which is a very conservative fund and has about 75% in the G fund. If you are a conservative investor, I strongly encourage you to look at the L Income Fund because it earned double what the normal G fund made in the last 12 months. Here's a little history. During his presidency, Ronald Reagan reduced 15 to 20 different tax brackets to about 4, so that you would not drop 3 or more tax brackets when you retired. If you're lucky, you might drop 1, but maybe not even 1. Then people stopped contributing to traditional IRAs, so the government developed a way to never tax the money once it goes into the account, and that's called the Roth IRA. When the money goes in, it is taxed up front, so you don't get that pre-tax write-off. However, when it comes out of the account, no matter when and who receives it, it's totally tax-free. The important thing to know is that there is a TSP Roth. Your TSP account really has 2 buckets, the TSP Traditional and the TSP Roth. You can have money in both of those buckets. How much should you put into the TSP Roth? As much as you can afford. We typically recommend to put all 5% into the TSP Roth if possible. Here's where Jeremy and Greg can really help, because you may want to pay everything into the Roth, but don't want to ever have this income taxed again. The challenge is that it will be taxed when you put it in, and whether you can afford to pay taxes on your contribution. Realistically, you could put half of your money into the TSP Roth with the remaining into the TSP Traditional. The matching money the government gives you, if you are FERS, always goes into the TSP Traditional, even if you put all your money in the TSP Roth. There are a few withdrawal options for your TSP. There is a TSP loan and a financial hardship. There is also an in-service, age-based withdrawal, and then full withdrawal at TSP 70 or partial withdrawal at TSP 77. We will cover the highlights. With a TSP loan, you can borrow up to $50,000. You pay whatever the G Fund is currently charging. Right now, it's about 2%. Imagine you are paying off an 8% college loan or a 12% credit card debt with a 2% loan. So if you have a loan out there that's charging you 5% or even more, I encourage you to look at a TSP loan. The TSP 75 is an interesting option. The government allows you to take a one-time partial withdrawal. Remember, you are only allowed to do this once. Look at this form, TSP 75, Age-Based In-Service Withdrawal. If you are working and you are 59.5 or older, you can use this form to take all your money out and put it wherever you want, giving you full control over it. Normally, when you retire, you would do the TSP 70, which gives you a number of options. You could take your money out in a lump sum or a monthly amount, or you can leave your money in the TSP. You could choose to leave it there for 3 or 4 years and then start monthly amounts. TSP benefits are painless. Every paycheck, the money automatically goes in. It has very low internal costs. You get a matching if you are an FERS, and the growth is tax deferred. The main concern is the lack of options. You may want to invest in real estate, gold, silver, or commodities. You can't do that with TSP. When the money comes out, the part that's in the traditional TSP is going to be fully taxable to you, your spouse, or your kids. It is difficult to get your money out, and you get a required minimum distribution, or RMD, for any Roth portion. The intent of the RMD is to make people take their money out of the TSP so that the government can take their taxes. A Roth is tax-free, so the government has chosen to penalize you if you don't do an RMD on a Roth. You might think about moving that money from the TSP Traditional bucket to the TSP Roth bucket because that Roth bucket is never taxed. However, that is not allowed. When you retire, you're able to select how you want survivor benefits handled. You get 5 options. Option 1, 50% of your pension goes to your spouse. Option 2, 25% of your pension goes to your spouse. Option 3, no pension goes to your spouse. That means that if you choose option 3 and you die, your spouse loses all health benefits. Let's talk about cost. If you choose option 1, it's 10% of your pension. So if your pension is $9,000 and you choose to give your spouse half of that, then they will charge you 10% or $900 a year. If you choose option 2, which gives your spouse a quarter of your pension, they will charge you 5% or $450 a year. CSRS is very similar, but rather than being 50%, you get 55%. If you are a CSRS employee, you could do 55% of $100, giving your surviving spouse about $4 a month. Why? Because as long as you choose option 1 or 2, you maintain the right to give health benefits to your surviving spouse. The cost for survivor benefits is a lot more confusing. It's 2.5% times the first $3,600, and then 10% on everything above that. This is a good place for Jeremy and Greg to help you. Our benefit analysis outlines all of this for you and can show you what different options look like in 10, 20, 30, or 40 years. Remember, this analysis is free, and we encourage you to do this if nothing else. Isn't a survivor benefit plan just like life insurance? For some, it is. This chart shows you a comparison. Let's say the spouse dies first. The survivor chose option 1, and he spent $90,000 paying for this option. So he asked, "Can I have my $90,000 back?" They said no. Then, "Can I change the beneficiary? I've been buying this protection for my wife, and now she passed away. Can I give my protection to my son?" The answer was, again, no. They will keep your $90,000. If he had chosen a life insurance policy, he might have been able to get his money back or easily change the beneficiary. In cases like this, life insurance provides a lot more flexibility. Next, lump sum versus monthly payments. Most survivors would prefer a lump sum to monthly payments. What are you going to do with $400 a month? You can't pay off the house, you can't start a business, you can't move to where the kids or grandkids are, but a lump sum gives the survivor options. start a business, pay off the house, move. Life insurance gives you a lump sum option. Survivor benefit does not. With regard to health benefits, we recommend the Survivor Benefit Plan. We know of no other life insurance policy that includes health insurance. If health insurance is important and you want the federal plan, you should go with the Survivor Benefit Plan. If you're happy with the lump sum option, this becomes even less important. Again, life insurance pays out money totally tax-free. Survivor benefits must fully tax your spouse for every dime. If the spouse remarries, depending upon the person's age, they may very well lose every benefit if you die, even though you may have paid to survivor benefits. With life insurance, they could remarry the very next day and receive full benefits. When considering cost, there's no clear choice because it depends upon your health. Life insurance is based on age and health, so if you have health issues, it may be difficult to get life insurance at a reasonable cost. You still have the survivor benefit option, but you get greater flexibility with life insurance. When do you want to buy? The earlier, the better. Once you reach 50 and 60, it becomes harder to get life insurance. Let's talk basics about life insurance. For protection in retirement, the government has provided life insurance called FEGLI, or Federal Employee Group Life Insurance. You get the basic policy, which is your basic pay rounded up to the next $1,000 plus $2,000. That's a great policy. The cost is set up at 32.5 cents per month per $1,000. It doesn't matter how old you are or how much you make. Under 35, it's doubled, and between 35 and 45, that bonus slowly goes away. For example, if you have $50,000 and you're 34 years old, now you have $100,000 because you get it doubled for free. At 35 years old, that extra $50,000 begins to reduce by 10% and will be gone by the time you reach 45. Option A is an additional $10,000. Realistically, this is not a large sum of money. Option B is very powerful. It gives you a multiple of your salary, up to 5 times your salary. So if you're making $100,000 a year, you could get an extra $500,000. Option B is based on your age, so the older you get, the more expensive it becomes. Option C is for your family. Notice that the multiples are not the same as in Option B. In Option C, for a child, a multiple is $2,500, so you could go up to 5 times that, or about $12,500. A multiple for a spouse is $5,000, so for a spouse, you could get up to $25,000. If you choose Option C, everyone is automatically covered, and you must cover everyone by the same multiples. Dependents under age 22 are covered and can only continue to be covered after age 22 if they are disabled. This chart set lays out premiums for each option. You'll notice these costs are very reasonable for an employee, but do increase with age. You have several options at retirement with FEGLI. If you stay with basic, you'll have to make a choice whether to keep all or a portion of it. This is one of those areas where Jeremy and Greg can walk you through the different options and see what makes sense for you and your family. Note that you must retire on an immediate annuity and you must have been covered under FEGLI for the most recent 5 years. If you're married to a federal employee, the 5 years do not count for you because you might be covered under your spouse, and that counts as meeting the 5-year requirement. Also, if you are married and your spouse is not a federal employee, there's no 5-year requirement. Remember that previous chart with the costs of 3, 5, 8 cents? Notice what happens when you retire. In Option B, age becomes the issue and the cost more than doubles. At age 70, it doubles again, making it prohibitively expensive. Our free benefit analysis will project your FEGLI basic and the costs of Option A, B, or C into retirement. Ask for this analysis because you'll get a clear picture of your insurance costs. It's important because you don't want a big surprise when you turn 60 or 70 and realize you could have done better. By then, you may be too old or too ill to qualify for insurance. It makes sense now, at an earlier age, to explore all your options. Federal Employee Health Benefits, FEHB, is one of the very best benefits from the government. The average person typically loses their health benefits upon retirement, or it will cost them much more to keep them. For federal employees, the price does not go up when you retire. You'll pay as a retiree the exact same amount as when you were working. Every November and December is open enrollment. We encourage you, even if you plan on staying with your current insurance, to go online and check. Last year, people became aware of some pretty painful price increases for their current company. We encourage you to go online, check out each November and December to compare prices. Because we aren't lawyers, we're not allowed to give you legal advice, but we can give you some very important advice to consider that you may want to discuss with a lawyer. Here's a test question. Do you know which takes priority, a will or a beneficiary? Beneficiary always trumps a will. These are the 4 beneficiary forms that apply to you. The TSP3 form is the form that manages your beneficiary for your thrift savings plan. The next form, based on whether you are CSRS or FERS, deals with your unpaid compensation and leave. That form will take care of the beneficiary requirements for the unpaid compensation and leave. Then, you need to make sure your beneficiary form is filled out for your federal employee group life insurance. Make sure to double-check if this form is complete. Some government agencies have a website where you can see every single form you've filled out. If you can't find it quickly, you can fill out a new one and then everything will be up to date. Your situation changes over the years, so please make sure it's current. Believe it or not, some people don't list a beneficiary. That can be very bad because you may lose some benefits. So if at all possible, have a beneficiary. The second point deals with divorce, leaving an ex as a beneficiary. You don't want that to happen. How about a minor? Often we list our spouse and then someone under 18. A minor generally will never get that money. This has gone to legal court several times, and each time the insurance company wins and they're allowed to delay distributing those funds to a minor. The last bullet refers to having no contingency beneficiaries listed. On every beneficiary form, you'll see an area where it has primary beneficiaries who are the first ones to be offered the money. Contingent beneficiaries might be a spouse, sister, brother, nephew, etc. We highly encourage you to go that extra mile and put in some contingent beneficiaries. You want to make sure that if you and your spouse die at the same time, there are still beneficiaries listed. Next, let's talk about wills. We believe you need a will because it lets people know how you want your assets distributed. We recommend you look at your will at least every other year or whenever things change. A will lets you decide who is going to be the guardian for your dependents. It also identifies someone to execute your estate. This is now called a personal representative, or PR. We encourage you to identify your PR, and you may want to stipulate they be paid, depending on how much work will be involved. This person may have to take time away from work or incur travel expenses, so be thoughtful about what you are asking someone to do. What kind of wills are there? There is a written will, which is a document notarized and signed by witnesses. You can also have an oral will, but this type of will is often contested. Obviously, we recommend a written document, and depending on your assets and the people involved, you may want to involve an attorney who can mitigate conflict by framing the document a certain way. A living will lets people know what you want to have happen toward the end of your life. Realize that a living will does not designate someone to enforce it. Realize that even if you have a living will, emergency and medical personnel are not required to follow it. The answer to this dilemma is a durable power of attorney for health care, also called a medical directive. This is where you designate someone with the authority to enforce your living will. People often obtain a living will, but you also need to follow through with a medical directive to make this work. You can write a will yourself and have it notarized and filed. However, you may want to meet with an attorney to help you identify and iron out the details of your will. It will be worth the investment. You ought to have a power of attorney. You may need one for short-term issues like selling property. This gives the holder permission to do business in your name with certain parameters. Another situation might be taking care of grandchildren or other family members. You need permission to care for them if they're hurt or require medical attention. The most typical situation is when caring for an elderly parent when you handle a portion or all of their finances. There are 2 types of power of attorney. The first type is limited, where you give an agent permission to sell. For example, your car for no less than $5,000. We recommend getting one of these for each of you if you're married, or if you're not, just for yourself. A general power of attorney makes someone you. It allows somebody else to make decisions on your behalf. You can put stipulations on it concerning your health, the duration of the document, or for what specific purpose. A power of attorney is important to make sure that your living will is enforced. You may have a living will, but without a power of attorney, the living will carries less force.
We have covered a lot of ground today. How to think about retirement planning and how to make sure your income and expenses match up. We talked about getting your emergency savings set aside and the importance of having insurance and an investment plan. We talked about your pension. Prepare for it and realize it's going to be taxable. We talked about TSP. Generally speaking, we recommend 5% into the Roth TSP. If you can't afford that right now, let that be a goal to work toward. We talked about ways to get money out of TSP. It's difficult to get money out, so plan ahead of time how you'd like to do that. We looked at the life insurance the government offers. Great in its place, but look ahead. Make sure to ask for your free benefits analysis. Jeremy and Greg will outline your retirement costs, your benefit costs, your survivor benefit costs, and your FEGLI cost. This is an invaluable tool, and we offer it for free. We certainly appreciate you for attending the Retirement Gap training today. We hope you learned something new today. Remember to fill out the upcoming survey and take advantage of our free benefits analysis. Let Jeremy and Greg help you walk through these things and take control of your federal benefits. Have a great day.